Seattle's late summer air had that crisp bite to it, just cool enough to remind you that fall was creeping around the corner, but still clinging to the warmth of sunlight reflecting off the bay. We were at a waterfront restaurant her parents loved, something with a predictable name like Pier House or Tide and Table. It was one of those upscale places that dressed up fish and chips and called it seasonal coastal fare. Mia was sitting across from me, sipping her rose and laughing at something her brother said about buying a second boat, because apparently one wasn't enough to compensate for whatever he was trying to prove. Her mom was inspecting the salt rim on her margarita like it had personally offended her. Her dad, always the one to pretend we were on a talk show instead of having dinner, was holding court about Seattle's real estate market. And me? I was there physically, mentally. I was a million miles away. It had been like that for a while. Something had changed. The smiles were less genuine, the touches fewer and fleeting, the silences longer, but not peaceful. When Mia did talk to me, there was always a delay, like she was choosing her words too carefully or rehearsing them in her head before saying them out loud. I kept pretending. We both did. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of pride. But that night, that dinner, would be the end of pretending. It started with a sound, a single vibration. Mia's phone buzzed on the table. Her screen lit up for just a second. And that second was all it took. I wasn't even trying to see it. It just happened. The screen angled perfectly toward me. Maybe fate was tired of me being in the dark. Hotel reservation confirmed. Right below that, a message preview. Call Blueheart. Got the room. Can't wait to see you. Heart emoji. Blue. That detail sticks in my brain like a splinter. I stared at the screen like it had personally slapped me. Mia, almost reflexively, turned her phone over, face down. Smooth. Practiced. Her eyes didn't even flick toward me. I didn't say a word. Not yet. For the next 10 minutes, I sat there while everyone carried on like it was just another pleasant family dinner. But in my head, something had snapped. And the sound was still echoing. I watched her. Watched the way she laughed a little too loud at her brother's jokes. Touched her necklace when her dad asked about work. How she smiled at her mother's passive-aggressive comments. She was playing the part perfectly. She always had a talent for performance. Charming, warm, just the right amount of aloof. I used to love that about her. I took a sip of my water. I'd stopped drinking around her a few months back, without really noticing it, and stared at the candle in the center of the table. Everything was flickering. My vision, my thoughts, my foundation. Flickering like the flame that wouldn't sit still. Then came dessert. She ordered some elaborate plate with citrus meringue and hibiscus drizzle. I didn't want anything. I was full not from food, but from the weight pressing down on my chest. The second we got into the car, the words left my mouth before I even knew I was speaking. Who's Kyle? She didn't answer at first, just buckled her seatbelt. Calm, calculated. Then she looked at me. That same blank, wide-eyed look she used when I caught her moving money between our accounts without telling me last year. The look of a professional liar warming up. What are you talking about? She said, tilting her head just a little. Your phone. Dinner. Hotel confirmation. Message from Kyle with a heart. A pause. Her mouth opened like she was about to say something, but then she shook her head and laughed. Dry and humorless. Unbelievable, she muttered. You're checking my phone now? I didn't check anything. Popped up. You just left it facing me. She turned to the passenger window. I can't do this again. You're spiraling. Again, I said. What is this? Some episode you've diagnosed me with? You've always had trust issues, Jake. This isn't healthy. She said it like she was a therapist and I was some paranoid patient. Like she hadn't just had her phone light up with what looked very much like evidence of an affair. I could feel the pressure building in my chest. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as I pulled out of the parking lot. You're not even going to explain it? I asked. There's nothing to explain, she said. Her tone so dismissive it nearly made me snap the turn signal off the car. You're making something out of nothing. Again. Again. She kept using that word like it was a defense. Like if she said it enough, it would make the suspicion seem like some recurring flaw in me. I glanced at her. She was staring out the window, arms folded tight. That silence, that we *p*nized, strategic silence, was more damning than anything else. Not denial. Not anger. Just waiting for me to give up the argument so she wouldn't have to address it. But this wasn't some vague insecurity. This wasn't me reading into things. This was a hotel confirmation. A message with a heart. And a man named Kyle. I didn't say another word the whole ride home. And neither did she. The silence between us was a trench filled with mines. When we pulled into the driveway, she got out without waiting for me, walking inside like nothing happened, like she hadn't just cracked the final thread that was holding this marriage together. I sat in the car for a few minutes longer, the engine ticking as it cooled down. The windshield reflected the porch lights and the shadow of her moving inside, already halfway upstairs. My heart was thudding in my chest, but my mind, it was strangely clear. The kind of clarity that comes when the illusions fall away. When your brain stops trying to make excuses because it can't anymore. I walked inside, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed. She was already in the bathroom, door closed, shower running. Probably washing off the night. Washing off the lie. My phone buzzed. A bank notification. New charge posted. Lakeside View Hotel romantic package. There it was. Another nail. Romantic package. Paid with our joint card. She had either grown careless or confident that I wouldn't dig. Either way, the mask was slipping. I got up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stood there staring at the faucet while the fridge hummed in the background. The patterns from the past 3 months hit me all at once. The late-night grocery runs that didn't yield groceries. The brand-new perfume I didn't recognize. The location tracking on her phone mysteriously turned off. Privacy updates, she'd said. Receipts in her coat pocket from places we'd never been together. Cash withdrawals before every so-called client trip. And then there were the messages, the ones I caught flashes of before they vanished. She told me it was just some work app with self-deleting chats. Right? My hands were trembling, but not from shock anymore. From restraint. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't need to. She knew what I saw. And her silence, that calculated, infuriating silence, was the clearest answer she could have given me. Later, when she was asleep, I pulled the dashcam footage from the previous weeks. I had installed it months ago after someone clipped my bumper downtown. I'd forgotten it was even running. But now I had a reason to check. And what I found made everything click. The footage showed her getting picked up in a black SUV outside our house. Same SUV. Same time every Thursday. Different jackets, different bags, always with purpose, always dressed just a little more than usual. There was even a frame of her entering that same hotel from the bank alert. Laughing, brushing her hand against someone else's arm. A tall man with a sharp haircut and a confident smile. Kyle. And it wasn't just one visit. It was a pattern. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I just laid there in the dark, the soft hum of the ceiling fan spinning overhead, and my mind spinning even faster. Mia was next to me, her back turned, breathing slow and even like she didn't just spend the evening gaslighting me with the grace of a seasoned performer. I kept replaying everything, the notification, the hotel name, the dashcam footage. That name, Lakeside View Hotel. I'd never even heard of it until that night. And now it was burned into my memory like a scar. Around 3 a.m. I got up and went downstairs. I didn't turn on the lights. I moved through the house by memory. The creak in the third step, the cold tile in the kitchen, the soft thud of the fridge door sealing shut after I grabbed a bottle of water I didn't even want. What I really wanted was air. So I stepped outside. Seattle's night was cool and damp, the kind that gets into your bones. I stood on the porch, barefoot, staring at the empty street. I must have stood there for 10, maybe 15 minutes. No plan, just existing. Then I remembered something. The dashcam auto-backed up to my cloud storage. I walked back in, grabbed my laptop, and sat at the dining table, its surface still dotted with tiny white wine rings from dinners past. Back when dinners had conversations instead of landmines. I pulled up the footage. First Thursday. Black SUV, tinted windows, 7:42 p.m. Mia, wearing that dark green coat she bought on a business trip to San Diego. The one I said looked great. The one she wore while she got into someone else's car. Second Thursday. Same SUV. Different coat. Same smile. Third Thursday. SUV again. But this time, the camera caught something more. She stepped out of the car with Kyle. I didn't know it was him until that moment. But the way they walked together, side by side, shoulders brushing, fingers grazing, it was unmistakable. He was taller, hair swept back like he knew how good he looked. He was wearing a wool peacoat and expensive shoes. Mia was glowing. He touched the small of her back as they walked into the hotel. The footage froze on a still, them, standing under the hotel's glowing sign. She was looking up at him, laughing. He leaned in. She didn't move away. Then they kissed. Right there. On camera. And my car recorded it. Perfectly framed. I sat there, laptop screen burning into my face, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, I didn't feel sad. Or angry. I felt numb. The kind of numb that only shows up when denial has nothing left to hide behind. When you've finally reached the end of hoping for another explanation. That morning I left early. I didn't say a word to Mia. Just showered, dressed, and left. She was still asleep when I walked out. Her face looked peaceful, like someone who hadn't just detonated their marriage. I drove to a small diner near Queen and one I used to frequent when I needed to clear my head. I sat at the counter, ordered black coffee and nothing else. The waitress asked if I wanted a menu. I shook my head. She didn't push it. I opened my laptop again, rewatched the kiss. It wasn't just physical. There was history in it. Familiarity. Comfort. This wasn't new. This wasn't a fling. This was something established. And it wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was the quiet cruelty of how easily she lived the lie. I started organizing everything. Footage from each Thursday. *TS of her text preview. Bank statements. I downloaded the security log from our shared Amazon account. Times she ordered lingerie she never wore around me. Candles labeled hotel room ambience. And a bottle of that new perfume that suddenly showed up 2 months ago. I didn't know what I was building. A case? A timeline? Maybe just proof that I wasn't crazy. That it wasn't all in my head. Like she so calmly insisted. I didn't go home until noon. When I walked through the door, she was at the kitchen island, scrolling her phone, sipping oat milk like it was any other Friday. She looked up like she'd just realized I was gone. "Where'd you go?" she asked, voice light. "Out," I said, hanging up my jacket. She raised an eyebrow. "Okay. Is everything all right?" I gave her the same silent look she gave me the night before. She broke first. "Jake, if this is about yesterday, it is." She sighed, setting her phone down like I was exhausting her. "We talked about this." "No, I asked questions. You avoided them." She crossed her arms. "I'm not going to be interrogated in my own house." "Then tell the truth." "There's nothing going on." I walked over to the dining table, opened my laptop, and rotated it so she could see the paused frame of her and Kyle kissing at the hotel entrance. Silence. She stared at the screen like it was a stranger's life. Then, slowly, she closed the laptop. "What do you want me to say?" she said, quieter now. "How long?" She looked at me. Her eyes were damp, but not surprised. No outrage. No denial. 3 months, she said. I nodded. That tracked. "I was going to end it," she added, like that was supposed to matter now. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. But I did neither. "Why?" I asked. She looked down. "I don't know." I felt invisible. "And Kyle, he saw me." "He saw you? I've been here every day. You think I didn't see you?" "That's not what I mean," she said, shaking her head. I felt like I was suffocating." "So you cheated." "It wasn't like that." I stepped back. "It was exactly like that. You lied. You gaslit me. You flipped everything on me and made me feel like I was paranoid. Like I was broken." Her lips trembled. "Jake!" I held up a hand. "Don't. Just don't." I walked into the living room, grabbed my keys and left again. I didn't have a destination this time. I just drove. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at my friend Alex's place, an old college buddy who always had beer in the fridge and an extra set of sheets. He didn't ask questions, just offered me the couch and a knowing nod. I finally opened the metal box I had shoved into my trunk, the one I filled with printouts, statements, USB backups, and photos. I laid them out like evidence at a crime scene, because that's what this felt like, a crime scene. Clean one. No blood. Just emotional wreckage. At midnight, I got a message request on Facebook from someone named Danielle K. I almost deleted it, probably a spam account, but something stopped me. Her profile picture was a woman standing next to Kyle. I opened the message. "Hi, I think we need to talk. I'm Kyle's wife." My chest locked up. My first reaction was disbelief, then anger, then relief. I replied, "Go ahead." Within minutes, she was typing. She had **TS. Dozens of them. Conversations between Kyle and Mia. Booking receipts. Email confirmations. He had used his company card to pay for at least one of their stays. She even had a forwarded itinerary where Mia had written, "Can't wait to be wrapped in you again. Tell Danielle you're staying late at work." I read that one 3 times. Danielle told me she had suspected for weeks. Kyle had started being too careful. Phone on airplane mode, random network outages, overnight conferences in cities he wasn't even booked to be in. She said, "I feel like I'm losing my mind, but I need to know, is this real?" I sent her the dashcam still. 3 dots. Then, "Thank you. You just gave me the clarity I needed." We exchanged numbers, shared timelines. We realized the affair had started at a joint work retreat between her company and Mia's ad agency. 1 weekend, 2 days, and a fire that burned its way through 2 marriages. Danielle said she was going to talk to a lawyer Monday morning. So was I. Sunday morning arrived wrapped in gray skies and drizzle, the kind of slow, damp weather that always made Seattle feel like it was stuck in a memory. I hadn't been home since Friday. Alex didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer answers. He knew me well enough to know I'd talk when I was ready. I hadn't slept much, maybe an hour or 2, max. My body was exhausted, but my mind was still wide awake, juggling thoughts like grenades with loose pins. The image of Mia and Kyle kissing. Her admission, 3 months. Danielle's **TS. The fact that they thought they could get away with all of it. That I'd just not notice. And then there was the notification on my phone. A reminder Mia had set weeks ago. Sunday brunch at her parents', 11:30 a.m. It had been a tradition since we got married. Her dad made cheesy eggs, her mom overcooked bacon, and her younger brother scrolled TikTok silently while pretending to care about adult conversation. Every Sunday, rain or shine, hangover or not, it was sacred to them. I almost ignored the reminder. But then I realized, no, this was perfect. This was where it needed to happen. I showered, dressed in dark jeans and a button-down, and gathered my things. I brought the metal box. I didn't even need everything in it, but something about holding it, knowing I wasn't walking in empty-handed, gave me a strange kind of calm. By the time I pulled into her parents' driveway, it was just shy of 11:30. Mia's car was already there. Of course it was. I stepped out, rain dotting my shoulders, and walked toward the front door. No hesitation. I rang the bell. A few seconds passed. Then her dad opened the door. "Jake, you made it." His face lit up with that performative warmth he always wore when he wasn't sure how to feel. Come in, come in." I stepped inside. The smell of burnt bacon hit me instantly, mingling with artificial vanilla air freshener and cheap cologne. Familiar. Tense. Mia was in the kitchen, talking to her mother in hushed tones. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes flicked to the box in my hand, then to my face. "Hey," she said carefully. "You didn't respond to my texts." I didn't. Her brother was on the couch, phone in hand, pretending not to notice. "Jake, do you want coffee?" her mom asked, holding up a pot. "No, thank you," I said, calm, cold. I walked to the dining table and set the box down. Then I reached into my pocket and removed my wedding ring. I placed it directly in the center of the table, no words, no drama. Just the truth laid bare. The silence was instant. Her mother's face dropped. Her father's smile died. Her brother looked up and finally stopped scrolling. Mia didn't speak. I looked at her. Just her. Not her family. Not the audience. You don't have to explain anything, I said quietly. Not here. Not now. I just needed them to see it too. Her mom looked between us, stunned. Mia, what is he talking about? Mia's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. I asked her the same question, I said, turning to her parents. She didn't have an answer for me either. Her father's face darkened. Jake, I think she's been having an affair, I said, cutting him off. For at least 3 months. I have proof. I'm not here to create a scene. I'm here to end the lie. Mia finally spoke. Can we talk outside? I shook my head. You've had months to talk. Now you can listen. I opened the box and slid out the dashcam still. Her and Kyle, kissing. Lakeside View Hotel. Timestamp and all. Her mother gasped audibly. Her brother looked away. Then I pulled out the bank statement showing the hotel charge for the romantic package. I set it next to the photo. This was 2 nights ago, I said flatly. Her dad leaned forward, staring at the paperwork like it was a math problem he couldn't solve. Mia? Is this real? Still, she didn't answer. I pulled out one last item. The printed screenshot *T Danielle had sent me. The message from Mia to Kyle. Tell Danielle you're staying late at work. I'll bring the wine. Her mom looked like she'd been slapped. I put the rest of the box away and closed it gently. I'm not asking for sides, I said, standing up. I just wanted you to know. So there's no pretending. No alternate version. This is what happened. Her father looked older than I'd ever seen him. Wrinkled, slouched, silent. Her mom was tearing up now, holding her chest with one hand like she couldn't breathe. Mia finally spoke. Her voice was small. You're doing this in front of my family? No, I said, calm as ever. You did this. I'm just showing them what you hoped they'd never see. I turned to her brother. He didn't say anything, just looked down again. I grabbed the box, tucked it under my arm, and walked toward the door. No one stopped me. No one said a word. As I reached the hallway, her father's voice came, quiet and low. I'm sorry, Jake. It was the only thing anyone said. I stepped outside into the drizzle. The air felt heavier somehow, like everything had finally landed. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was carrying it alone. That night, I stayed at a hotel near the edge of the city. A no-frills place with thin pillows and flickering hallway lights, but it was quiet, clean. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain tap the window. I kept thinking about how quiet that room had gotten when I set the ring down. Her mom's eyes, her dad's silence. The way Mia didn't even try to fight it. It wasn't that she didn't care. It's that she knew. She knew I'd found everything. There was nothing left to spin. I texted Danielle. They know. I told them today. Her reply came fast. I filed this morning. Lawyer said Kyle's work emails alone are enough to bury him. I stared at the message for a while, then typed. I'm filing Tuesday. I want to serve her the papers face to face. No more texts. No more silence. She sent a thumbs up. Then, let me know when it's done. I closed the conversation and looked at the wedding photo I'd saved on my phone months ago. The one where she was laughing at something I'd whispered. Bouquet in hand, veil half falling out of her hair. Felt like a different person. Probably was. Monday, I met with the lawyer. Brought the timeline, the proof, the receipts. He nodded through it all. You've got everything we need, he said. She won't have any room to argue. I asked if it could be finalized fast. He said yes. I told him I wanted to deliver the papers myself. He raised an eyebrow. Most people let us handle that part. I want it to be real, I said. I want her to see the moment it ends. I called her the next day and told her to meet me at the downtown hotel near the train station, the one with the glass lobby and cold marble floors. She asked why. I just said we needed to talk. She showed up 15 minutes late, wearing a dark coat and sunglasses she didn't need. She looked thinner, tired. She sat across from me, hands in her lap. "You're not staying quiet this time," she said. "No," I replied. "Not anymore." I handed her the envelope. She took it slowly, like she already knew what was inside. "Is this what you really want?" she asked. "No," I said. "But it's what you left me with." She looked away, eyes glossy. "I didn't plan for it to go this far." "You planned enough to reserve hotel rooms." Her jaw clenched. I stood up. "You can keep the house for now," I said. "My stuff's already in storage." "Where will you go?" "Somewhere quiet." She nodded. "I'm sorry." "I know," I said, turning toward the door. "But that doesn't change anything." And then I walked out, letting the glass door swing shut behind me. For the first time since all of this began, I felt the smallest flicker of peace. Not because everything was over, but because I wasn't pretending anymore. And the silence that followed? For once, it didn't feel like betrayal. Felt like freedom. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, silence, and slow unraveling. It's strange, you spend years building something together, and it only takes a few printed pages and a couple of signatures to tear it all down. The legal side of things moved quickly. Too quickly, maybe. My lawyer was efficient, no nonsense, and precise. He called it a clean cut. I guess that's what people say when they mean surgical, not painless. Mia didn't contest the divorce. She didn't fight for the house. She didn't try to defend her name in the paperwork, didn't object to any of the outline timelines. She signed it all like someone signing out of a lease they no longer wanted. No anger, no remorse, just resignation. We didn't talk during that time. Not directly. Everything was done through our lawyers, one email at a time. There was a strange comfort in that, stripping the emotion out of something that had become so saturated with it. Turning a relationship into a series of legal transactions was depressing. Sure, but it was also stabilizing. Predictable. But what really stayed with me, what kept replaying in the back of my mind, was that final look on her face in the hotel lobby. That quiet, tired "I'm sorry" that she knew wouldn't change anything. The way her voice didn't crack. The way her eyes didn't plead. I think part of her expected me to crack first. I never did. Instead, I threw myself into the logistics of separation. I moved out completely 2 days after our hotel meeting. Rented a small studio in Fremont above a bookstore and started furnishing it like someone preparing for a life he didn't ask for but was now fully responsible for. The space was small but clean, quiet, mine. I kept only what mattered. A few clothes, my books, my guitars, a framed photo of my parents. Everything else I either sold, donated, or left behind. I didn't want the couch where she used to fall asleep scrolling Instagram. I didn't want the mugs we bought on our trip to Ashland. I didn't want the bedding that still smelled like her perfume, or the artwork we picked out together at the Pike Place Market. I wanted a hard reset. I needed one. Some nights were harder than others. Not because I missed her necessarily, but because I missed the version of her that used to exist. Or maybe the version I made up. The woman who laughed in the car when I sang off-key, who cried at Pixar movies, who used to tuck her cold feet under my leg while we watched Netflix in the winter. That woman wasn't real anymore. If she ever was. It was during one of those late nights, lying awake in a too-quiet apartment, that my phone buzzed. Danielle. We hadn't spoken since that night I served Mia the papers. Our shared mission had ended, and with it, so had the strange camaraderie we'd built. I figured that was it. Closure achieved. Case closed. But there she was, name lighting up my screen. Finalized today. It's over. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. Same here. Welcome to the other side. She replied a minute later. We should toast. Or burn something. I smirked despite myself. Why not both? We met at a dive bar in Capitol Hill 2 days later. It wasn't a date. Not really. More like two survivors of the same shipwreck washing up on the same patch of sand. Danielle was dressed casually. Jeans, a green sweater, no makeup, hair tied back. She looked tired but not weak. There was something in her posture that screamed rebuilt. A woman who'd walked through the fire and came out smoking, not burning. She ordered whiskey neat. "Cheers," she said, raising her glass. "To endings." I raised mine. "To clarity." We drank, talked, laughed even. She told me Kyle had been demoted at work. Word got out about the misuse of company funds, and while they didn't fire him, they made his life hell. Stripped privileges, pulled accounts. His reputation, once polished and charming, was starting to rust. "He's miserable," she said with a shrug. "Tried to call me 3 times this week." "You pick up." She smiled bitterly. "Not even tempted." I told her Mia had gone silent. I didn't know if she was still with Kyle. I didn't want to know. That part of the story was no longer mine. Danielle asked if I ever felt like I was grieving a ghost. I said yes. All the time. We didn't make any promises that night. No numbers exchanged. No vows of friendship or flirtation. Just 2 tired people, toasting to freedom in the glow of neon beer signs. That night, walking back to my car, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not peace. Not closure. Just weightlessness. Like I wasn't dragging their lies behind me anymore. The next morning, I woke up to a letter in the mailbox. A real one, stamped, sealed, and handwritten. From Mia. No return address. I stood in my tiny kitchen holding it for 5 full minutes before opening it. Inside was 1 page. No "Dear Jake." No "Love, Mia." Just this: "You were right. I don't recognize who I became. I'm sorry I broke the part of you that trusted people. If I could go back, I would have chosen honesty over the comfort of a lie. But I can't. I just hope you can eventually find something better than what I ruined. No reply necessary." I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and dropped it into the bottom drawer of my desk. Not to be revisited, just not ready to be thrown out. It didn't change anything, but it didn't hurt. Not like I expected. By late spring, the apartment started to feel more like home. I hung up new artwork, found a local coffee shop that remembered my name, even picked up a used dog-eared copy of Walden from the bookstore downstairs and started reading again. I wasn't healed. I don't think healing is a destination, really. More like a direction you start walking toward once you stop bleeding. One afternoon, I ran into Alex at Green Lake. We walked a lap together, catching up. "You look better," he said. I smirked. Define better. Like someone who's sleeping again. We stopped at a bench. Watched ducks fight over breadcrumbs. Alex looked at me. "You ever think about dating again?" "Not really," I said. "Not yet." "Fair." He paused, then added, "But when you do, don't carry her ghost with you." I nodded. I didn't need to ask which her he meant. One Sunday in June, exactly 6 months since the dinner at the waterfront, I returned to that same restaurant. Alone. Same table. Same view of the water. Same candle flickering in the breeze. But this time, no pretending. I ordered what I actually wanted. A steak. Fries. No rows. No small talk. And when the server asked, "Will someone be joining you?" I smiled and said, "Not today." It wasn't a sad answer. It was an honest one. When the check came, I tipped extra and left quietly. As I walked toward the parking lot, I noticed a couple taking a selfie by the railing. Young. In love. The girl laughed at something the guy whispered, and he kissed her forehead like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a split second I felt it, that old ache. The one that asks, will I ever have that again? But then, just as quickly, it passed. And in its place there was something steadier. Not hope, but readiness. Readiness to rebuild. To move forward. To open the next chapter without dragging the last one behind me like an anchor. I got in my car, turned the key, and drove away. Not from her. Not from pain. But from the version of me that waited too long for honesty, and finally found strength in the silence. I don't remember the exact moment I stopped thinking about her every day. It just happened quietly, like a light flickering out in a room I no longer needed to visit. The pain didn't leave all at once. It lingered softer, duller, like the ache after a healed bone. Some days it crept back without warning. A familiar scent in a grocery store aisle. A song she used to hum while brushing her hair. A joke I almost texted her before remembering she wasn't that person anymore. Or maybe I wasn't. But those moments became fewer, lighter, and eventually, when they came, I let them pass through me like weather. Temporary, not permanent. I had started walking again, really walking. Not the distracted, head-down pace I'd kept in the early days. I mean walking. Through Discovery Park, along the coast, up Capitol Hill. Mornings were best. The city still waking up. Coffee in hand. No ghosts. I picked up a new habit too. Journaling. Not the dramatic kind with sad poetry or bitter vents. Just thoughts. Lists. One entry read, "Things I want now. Peace over closure. Someone who listens and hears. My own place, not just a place I live in. Quiet mornings. A dog, maybe." I underlined that last one. The next weekend, I visited the shelter in Ballard. Didn't expect to find anyone. Wasn't even sure I was ready. Then I saw her. A nervous-looking border collie mix curled up in the back of a kennel, eyes alert but not scared. She was small, with one floppy ear and a white stripe down her nose. The sign on the gate read, "Maya, 3 years. Shy at first, but loyal." I stood there for a while, just watching her watch me. A volunteer walked over. "She takes a minute," he said. "But once she bonds with someone, she doesn't leave their side." I knelt down, offered my hand, and waited. After a few seconds, she inched forward and rested her chin against my palm. I took her home the next day. Maya changed everything. Suddenly, I had a reason to get up early to go outside to explore new neighborhoods. We walked miles together, just the two of us, silently learning to trust each other. She didn't know about the divorce or the betrayal or the version of me I used to be. She only knew the guy who fed her, talked to her like she understood full sentences, and let her sleep on the foot of the bed. And in return, she gave me something I didn't know I'd lost. Steadiness. Companionship without complication. One morning, about a month after I brought her home, I took her down to Alki Beach. The tide was low. Maya sniffed every piece of driftwood like it was a buried treasure. I threw a stick badly, and she chased it like it was a mission. We were sitting on a bench afterward, watching the water, when I felt my phone buzz.